Welcome to Doing the Work, a Naples Integrated Recovery podcast. My name is Brian, and this space is for anyone who's tired of surviving the same emotional and behavioral loops, whether that's anxiety, trauma, addiction, or problems in your relationships. Around here, we cut the surface level advice and sugarcoating, no platitudes or bumper sticker wisdom. We focus on clarity, responsibility, emotional discipline, and the courage to look at yourself honestly so that you can stop repeating old patterns and start living with intention instead of reaction. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about a framework that organizes a lot of what I see in myself and many of the people that I sit with weekly. And Buddhism calls this the three poisons, but you don't need to be a Buddhist or believe in any kind of a spiritual framework to understand the same mechanism as it relates to counseling and psychology. So let's strip language out of that, and what we are left with is three predictable patterns: chasing, avoiding, and not seeing things clearly. The idea is pretty simple. It took me longer than I'd like to admit that these patterns were not occasional. They had conditioned the way that I think, make decisions, and how I had structured my life on a daily basis. And that's the part I didn't see. So I'm going to walk you through these three poisons using some of my own patterns to illustrate, because if it stays too conceptual or too teachy, then it might be something that you just kind of nod and forget. So hopefully if I illustrate with some of my own examples, that might make more sense of things. So let's start with the first one. Most of us think that happiness is something that we earn, a prize that shows up after enough effort, enough healing, enough discipline, a finish line. Graduate, get promoted, fix the relationship, buy the car, check the box. I've lived most of my life like that. Sometimes I have moments of awareness that I do better than others, but this version where happiness is always tied to the next condition being met, and then it just always changes form. So several months ago, I wrote an article where I had detailed out a few of these for me. So I'll be happy when I stop drinking finally, when I make it through this career crisis of getting fired from the police department, when I go back to school full time and I can change careers, after I finish the master's degree, after I get out of this community mental health hellhole, then I'll be okay. Once I'm in private practice, once I have the Mustang, once I'm licensed and I have that on the wall and then nobody can tell me what to do and I can run my practice however I want to. Once the scale hits a certain number, once I'm out of this HOA and this Karen holy hell neighbor can't tell me what to do anymore. Once I have six figures, once I don't have a boss and I can just do it by myself. Once I can run the operation however I want. And now the most recent one, once this construction project of building a garage is done at my place and that I have built an office on top of that, right? So my partner and I were joking about, I'm like, yeah, I'm killing myself at work, seeing way too many people right now, and I'm only doing it for this season because I'm doing it for this construction thing. And then I said, we both know that that's bullshit, because after this, I'll buy a fucking RV and I'll be like, oh, I'm working because I'm trying to pay off the RV, or I'm trying to buy a second house that I don't need in Georgia. There's always going to be a next thing, right? So every single one of those truly felt real in that moment. Like, I'm finally going to be able to breathe once I have my license, or I'm finally going to be okay once I hit, six figures income and I'm not so worried about whatever. And every single time it really felt like that's where happiness was going to be. And every time I got there, there was, like, when I got my diploma in the mail after years of a master's program, I was so I looked forward to that damn diploma for like 2 years. And then I got it and I was like, oh, kind of thought that this would feel different. I mean, I was proud, but it wasn't anything like I thought it was going to be. So we keep thinking this is the one that's actually going to do it. And every time it felt kind of good. I loved starting the Mustang the first time that I did. And then there was like, okay. And it kind of quickly faded and moved on to the next target without me even being aware. The next version, the upgraded version, I'm going to like this Mustang better after I take the resonator off and the exhaust is louder. Then I'm going to be happy. After I get the next gadget, after I get the next iPhone. I hate this damn camera on this thing. I need a better iPhone, right? So in this framework, what's being pointed to when people say the word greed or desire, it doesn't even necessarily have to be about being excessive or materialistic. It's the belief that something out there is going to stabilize how I feel in a lasting way. And if I'm honest, I have believed that over and over again because our nervous systems are wired for pursuit. So this is one of my critiques of 12-step programs, to say that that's a character defect and that there's something wrong with you for being wired. When I hear people say, well, I'm wired that way because I'm an alcoholic, not really. That's part of basic nervous system human wiring. Anticipation is what lights things up. You are building towards the thing, and when you get it, your chemistry shifts and then the baseline resets. That's why you can spend years working towards something and then you get that damn degree in the mail and it's like, I'm probably going to be happier after I'm licensed, right? So I am running toward what I think is going to fix everything, and I don't realize that I'm going to keep doing that probably no matter what. So right now, as I described, this is like this big garage project. The project manager came over, said, think we can do it for 150 grand. Great. That has quickly gone north of 300 almost immediately. Probably by the time it's done, it's going to be $500,000. So way more involved than I expected. I'm grinding right now, and I tell myself and I tell my partner, I'm just doing this until this garage thing is done. But we both know it isn't going to end with anything settled. It's going to end with the next thing that I'm in pursuit over. So we say it out loud, and then once that thing is done, it becomes something else. RV, more land, another project, another stuff. Now it's going to be when I can take on, once I'm a QS and I start supervising other mental health counselors, right? So the content changes, the structure doesn't. And the part that is easy to miss is how this shapes behavior, because if I believe that getting to the next thing is finally going to fix me or make me happy, then everything in my life starts organizing around getting there faster. And that's where the second pattern comes in. The second pattern, or the second poison, is aversion or avoidance. So if I stay with the first pattern, constantly chasing the next thing, then the next question is, what happens if I don't get there fast enough? Because I'm not just moving towards the thing that I think is going to fix everything, but I'm also organizing my life around not experiencing what I think is going to make it worse. That's the second pattern. And for me, that shows up very clearly in how I work. Just last week, I canceled a therapy session with my therapist, and I texted him, I don't have any updates anyway. I'm still stressed out. I'm still overworking. I'm still way overstretched. Haven't changed a single thing, so I'm sitting in much of the same. And no confusion there. That's me seeing the pattern and staying in it. The same thing that why I have this whole podcast to begin with, that your insight alone isn't going to change anything in your life. You got to actually change the things. How about that? I'm doing the work with you. If I step back, the change is obvious. I need to work less. I need to create space. I need to stop compressing everything into the shortest possible timeline. Like, addict wiring, addict thinking, do it all immediately ism, right? And I'm not doing that. So the real question is, what would happen if I actually did? Well, if I were to reduce my workload to something that would be way more manageable, then this construction project would slow down. I wouldn't get it anywhere near as fast as I want it to. I want it overnight, right? I want that master's degree overnight. I want to be licensed overnight. I want that Mustang right now. But if the income slows down, then the project stretches out. And now we have gone from something that's a 6-month thing to a 2-year thing. Now I'm in a different experience. I'm not chasing anymore. I'm waiting. And that's where resistance shows up. Because waiting puts me in contact with my limits. Limits on my time, limits on control, limits on how quickly I can move things forward. And so instead of sitting in that, I move in the opposite direction. I work more, I increase output, and I try to shorten the timeline. And then I tell myself a story that makes it sound reasonable. I'm just doing this right now to pay for this project. I'm just pushing, I'm just grinding right now so that I can relax later. But I've used that same reasoning over so many phases of my life. Different goal, same structure, and if I zoom out and look at it clearly, this second pattern isn't random. It's tied directly to the first. That if I get the next thing, then I'll finally be happy. And if I believe that the next thing is going to settle everything, then anything that slows down that process starts to feel like it's a problem to me. So I start to organize my behavior around avoiding anything that's going to slow me down. And that's what I'm talking about by aversion. This isn't about anger or dislike. It's the instinct to move away from an experience that I don't want. And I don't want delay. I don't want uncertainty. I don't want lack of control. And so I try to structure my life around these things so that I don't have to sit with those unpleasant things. And the cost is I never actually let things unfold at their natural pace. I stay in motion because motion feels like control to me, and I'm a control freak. The third pattern, so now I'm chasing everything and I'm avoiding feeling the discomfort of having to wait. The third pattern is ignorance, or not seeing things clearly. So I've got these other two things running. I'm moving toward the thing that I think is finally going to make me happy, and then I move away from the thing that I think is going to slow me down or make me feel worse. And if I stop there, it sounds like it's a productivity issue. The third part of this teaching explains why it keeps repeating. It comes down to not seeing clearly. In this framework, this is what is meant by the word ignorance, which doesn't mean that I'm not intelligent. It's a certain kind of blindness. It's the inability to see what's actually happening when I'm in the pattern. Because if I could see clearly, then I wouldn't keep repeating it with this same level of consistency. I have had that version of the goal in my head for my adult life. And so probably going back to beginning as a police officer in 2008, I think I always had this trophy goal in mind, like someday, if I hit 6 figures, that's the marker of success, that I have made it. That was the line that I told myself, everything will change once I finally make 6 figures. And so let's see, never made anywhere close to that as a police officer. And community mental health, get out of here. Never even close. Try half of that. So I'm in community mental health, making like 50 grand a year, feeling behind, watching other people, quote unquote, get there faster. And there's one story or memory that really comes to mind. When I was in my master's program and I was making like 50 grand a year in community mental health, and an acquaintance came over to pressure wash my back patio. That was his business. I think maybe at the time he had a substance use problem, or now he's sober. Neither here nor there. But so here I'm in a master's program. Guy comes over to pressure wash, and I made the mistake of asking. I was like, how much do you make doing this? you don't have to tell me. I'm just kind of curious. And he was like, call it like maybe 120, 130,000 a year. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Studying all this, killing myself in community mental health, kissing corporate ass, making 50 grand a year, burning out with all this studying. What am I doing? Immediate resentment. I'm in grad school, years of training, sitting in the shittiest system that exists. And here's somebody listening to a podcast, spraying the lanai, making $130,000 a year. Oh man, that stuck. And I pushed, and eventually I got there. My first year of private practice, I hit that range, even with splits with group practices. And then in my second year, when Naples Integrated Recovery was fully independent, I doubled that. And here's what matters next. Absolutely nothing settled internally. There was no permanent shift where I felt like I had made it. The number changed and the structure didn't. The thought just updated. I'm worth more than this. I should be paid more than this. That's how fast it resets. The problem isn't that I didn't get what I wanted. The problem is that I keep expecting the next thing to change everything or to land differently, even though I have years of evidence that that's not going to be the case. But in that moment, it feels real. In that moment, I tell myself, this time it's going to be different. That's blindness. There's a piece of this teaching that points to this directly, how we don't see that things are constantly changing and that satisfaction doesn't hold the way that we expect it to, and that there isn't a fixed point where everything locks into place. You don't need to memorize that. You can just look at your own behavior. How many times have you gotten what you wanted and then adjusted almost immediately? How many times has the goalpost moved in your life? That's the pattern. And it's subtle because when you're doing it, it feels like you're progressing. It feels like you're leveling up. Or it could feel like refinement. But underneath it, the same loop is running. You're chasing something that won't hold. You're avoiding something that feels uncomfortable. And you're not fully seeing the structure of what keeps repeating. And once I started to see that, even a little bit, something changed. Not that it stopped, because I still do all of this, right? Here I am recording. I'm telling on myself in real time for all of you just to humanize this. But there is a moment where I still catch it, that I go, oh, there it is again. That's me. That's the next finishing line. I'm finally going to be happy when I get there. That's the push to speed it up. The belief that this version is going to change everything, and awareness doesn't fix it, but it does interrupt it long enough for me to question it. So how does this show up with clients I work with, and what actually changes it? Once I started seeing this pattern in myself, it became very hard to miss with the people that I work with. And I don't judge anybody. Truly, I don't. It's more like a pattern recognition. I sit with the same people every week. They can explain their pattern in detail. They know why they do what they do. They can trace it back to childhood. They can name their triggers. They can walk me through the cycle step by step. And then the next week, just like me saying to my therapist, same shit, different week, haven't changed a thing. Same reaction, same outcome, same frustration, same burnout. If I only look at what's on the surface, it's easy to assume that they are stuck because they don't understand enough or they're not motivated enough, and that's usually not the issue. They understand plenty. They understand what's happening with the structure. They're chasing something that they think will fix how they feel. Maybe that's approval or reassurance, financial stability, control, being chosen, being understood. At the same time, they're organizing their behavior and they are avoiding something that they don't want to experience. Rejection, discomfort, uncertainty, being alone, maybe making the wrong decision. And underneath all of those, there's a blind spot. They don't fully see that the way that they're structuring their behavior is what keeps recreating the same outcome. So they stay in motion. They keep talking about it, thinking about it, analyzing it, and it feels like it's progress because it's active, but they're not changing anything. And I can say that cleanly because I do the same thing. I'm not better than anybody else. That message I sent my therapist, that's the same pattern. Haven't changed a damn thing, Reed. That's it. Full awareness, no shift. So what changes it? Because the answer isn't more insight. At some point, insight stops being useful if it's not tied to behavior. So what shifts things is usually much simpler and harder at the same time. It's catching the pattern early enough to do something different in real time. Not after the fact, not after reflection, but in the moment when it's happening. When I notice myself tightening around a new goal, thinking, once this thing is done, everything's going to be easy street after that. I'll be happy finally. That's the first signal. When I feel the urge to speed everything up, take on 10 clients a day, compress the timeline, that's signal number 2. And when I catch myself telling a familiar story, this is temporary, we're going to relax after this. After the garage is built, everything's going to be great after that. That's signal number 3. That's the window. And the move there isn't philosophical, it's behavioral. Sometimes it's pulling back slightly instead of pushing forward. So maybe if I get a cancellation, that I don't aggressively just fill that slot right away from the waiting list, but maybe go, you know what? That it would be okay for me to not be in fast forward all the time. Go ahead and take that hour off, Brian. You're going to be just fine if you don't see another client. Sometimes it is letting something take longer instead of forcing it to happen faster. Sometimes it's sitting in the exact part that I would normally try to bypass. No overhaul, no big declaration, just a different move in the moment. And most of the time, that is very uncomfortable because it goes against the pattern that's been running for years. So there's a piece of this teaching that really matters here. The point isn't to stop wanting things. The point isn't to eliminate discomfort. Those are always going to show up. The point is to see it clearly when it's happening so that I'm not completely automatic inside of it. And that's what can change the trajectory. So if I bring this back to something usable, it comes down to 3 questions. What am I chasing right now that I think is going to fix everything in my life where things are finally going to settle? That's question 1. 2, what am I organizing my life around avoiding? Going too slowly, not getting there fast enough, having to give up some of my control. And where am I assuming that this next version of me is going to land differently, even though I've already seen this play out 15 times? You don't need to have perfect answers. You just need enough awareness to catch it when it shows up. Because once you see it, even briefly, it can start to lose some of its pull. That thought of, once I get that, I'll be good, doesn't hit quite as hard because you already know that that's not true. The urgency to speed everything up can just slow down just a little bit. Actually, you know what? I don't think I do need to see 45 people this week. That's just fine. And it creates a small amount of space to choose something different. Not perfectly, not consistently, maybe even just occasionally. And over time, that is what starts to shift things. You're still building things, you're still working, you're still moving forward, but you're not tying your ability to feel okay around the next condition being satisfied or met for you. And you're not structuring your entire life around avoiding the things that you don't want to sit in. You're seeing more clearly while it's happening, and that is doing the work. Thanks for spending the time with me. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with somebody who may need to hear it. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others around you. Remember that we're all doing the best that we can with the tools that we currently have, and we are all capable of growing past them. If you'd like to reach out or connect, send me an email, brian@naplesintegratedrecovery.com. I hope to hear from you there. And in the meantime, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.